and welcome to episode 4 of the Stug build. And today we are going to build some fenders. But before we can start with the fenders, I actually realized and I came across a couple of things that I missed doing in the first 5.5 steps. So we'll go back and just quickly add those things first. So here we are. I forgot the sprocket housing on both sides, as well as the idler support arms. The main reason why I did that is because the instructions tell you to basically glue the sprocket housing to the sprocket and glue the idler support arm to the idler wheel. I really don't like this, so I basically just didn't see it, and now we're going back and I'm just adding these to the chassis here as just the first small step to just complete our build. And there's no problem whatsoever with this. They just fit perfectly. It's just the instructions are vague here, and you have to really basically study them really well in order to not like oversee stuff. Here we have the idler support. It's a three-piece assembly, and you can see the big bolt in the back, which basically serves to increase or decrease the idler tension and thus track tension. And it's a bit tricky. There's another mislabeling in the instructions here on one small part, but if you have your eyes open and you're careful, you will realize it rather quickly. Of course, I didn't have my eyes open, so I made a mistake at first. And you'll see me fumbling with the piece in a second once I glue it in place, and I'm like totally dumbfounded because it just won't fit. And it's totally out of line. And then I realized, okay, maybe they mislabeled their instructions again, which they did. And you'll then see me switch it to the other side, and then everything's perfectly fine. Overall, up to this point, I've no bad things to say about the plastic. The plastic fits perfectly. It all just works out fine. The only issues I've come across so far are the instructions. It's the only thing that really bothers me. And the part I'm gluing in right now is the part that I mean. It just won't fit. It won't align because it is the wrong part. It goes on the other side. It's just mislabeled in the instructions. And as you can see, I'm trying, and it's just not working. And at some point, I'm looking at the other side. No. Maybe they've mislabeled it. And yes, they have. So I took it off and used the part for the other side. And oh, look, it fits perfectly fine. So yes, be careful here in the instructions. And as you can see here, top right, I actually tell you the mislabeled parts and what you have to be careful of. Now we're building the other side. It's repetitive, of course, but it's not a lot of repetitiveness. And as you can see here, I'm trying to use the contactor glue, but the nozzle, and that's one of the big issues with the contactor, the nozzle just gets clogged. And one way to clean it is to get a lighter and just heat it up so the glue inside basically then melts or burns and then frees up the nozzle. But you have to be careful because the nozzle gets hot, and if you put the hot nozzle back into the glue, into the bottle of glue, it's not a good idea. Okay, so now that we've finished this, let's move back over to the fenders. The thing we had originally planned for this episode. And there's a lot of small details on these fenders, and I'm still not sure if the instructions are perfectly fine with regards to the fenders, because there are a couple of holes that the instructions don't specifically tell you to fill that are still visible once all the tools and all the miscellaneous stuff on the fenders goes into place. So I think that they just forgot to tell you to just fill some of the holes. That's what she said, right? But yes, they forgot to tell you to put some putty in there. On the other fender that we're going to build in a second, you will be able to perfectly see that they tell me to fill it, and I'm using stretch like molten sprue to fill it. But on this one, they don't tell you anything. The level of detail on the fenders is fine. It's really nice. The anti-slip texture on top is really good. The only thing that I still don't understand is the fit of this fender. And I told you earlier that I put the fender support struts on the hull in place, even though I would normally do this after I put the fender in place. And this is exactly why, because they don't align now. But that's not the only problem. As you can see, there's this small piece of plastic protruding from the fender to the left, inside of the vehicle, which will then align with the superstructure. The problem is, this thing does not align with the outside of the chassis, so it basically sits on top and it floats. And I still haven't figured out how this is going to align perfectly. You will be seeing me trying to fumble with the superstructure in a second to see how this might fit and might align, but I still don't know. But we'll find out together, I guess. And then you will see me either smashing this thing into oblivion and pieces, or you will see me figure out what I can't figure out at this point. One aside, I hope you like the fact that today I've used some classical music in the background, and normally I would just use some random YouTube media library song in the background, but since this video is rather long, I thought, well, I need something that's at least 24 minutes, and well, I chose Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, at least the end of it, and I hope you like it. I like classical music every now and then, just calms me down. And of course, the Ode to Joy, as this is also known as, is always something rather nice. And now that we've built the fender support, or the support struts on top of the fenders, I'm trying to align them and they just won't align. It's just not working. Sadly, it's just not working. But I won't be gluing them down yet anyways, so let's just put the tools on. Like, first we start out with the wire cutters here. And I was informed on one of my videos by a good friend of mine, Adam Mann, that I paint my wire cutters wrong. And I know that I do, and I will be doing a different paint job on these wire cutters just to please him. So Adam, if you see this, I took notice of what you said, and I will be trying to do it differently this time around. The level of detail on these wire cutters, as always with Dragon tools, they look really good. You have to clean some of the seam lines. And this S toe hook here that I'm working on also has a rather thick and visible seam line that you really have to take off, otherwise it will just look wrong once your model is built. So I take my hobby knife and I scrape at it until I remove all of the seam. Sorry. Next up, we have the horn, the Bosch horn that goes in the front of the fender. And then we'll be tackling the headlight. Those early Stugs had a rather small-ish headlight in comparison to what the later war vehicles would have with the no-tag headlight or the Bosch headlight, but the one that goes on this one is a rather smallish one. So you have to be careful, it's a delicate part. Now that we've reached 10 minutes, I want to say thank you to all of my supporters. I want to say thank you to all of my subscribers, and if you like this video and you haven't yet subscribed, please subscribe. It would be really helpful. And if you like this video, leave a like. As always, the YouTube algorithm likes it when you like my videos, and then they will be watched more often, and that helps me out a lot. The convoy light here for the back, so that following tanks will not crash into the Stug when it's dark outside. Now we're building. Is this already? I think this is. Yes, this is the jack block. It does not have wood grain texture compared to other jack blocks that are used by dragons, so I was a bit confused here, but you won't see a lot of it because there's a toolbox just on top of it, which basically covers all of this anyways, but it would still have been nice to have the wood grain texture on this. There we go. This is the toolbox stand, and then on top of this we put a toolbox in just a second. And as you can see, the fender is becoming more equipped, and the toolbox also has a seam line that you have to remove, at least in the back. Don't remove the ones on the side because those are actually like the demarcation lines between the lid of the toolbox and the rest of the toolbox, so you don't want to remove those because then you will no longer be able to identify this as a toolbox. Now we are actually working on the back mud guards. I was thinking of replacing them with Photo-etch, but then again I wanted to show you an out-of-box build of this, except for adding the one resin detail in the front of the tank at the end, but other than that I really want to go out of the box here. And I will be using the DS tracks if they fit. We'll see about that at a later stage, because sometimes Dragon DS tracks just don't fit. So here we are. Here we have the fender, almost fully built. All that's missing now is the jack and also a Photo-etch part, which we will be working on in just a second. So now we tackle the jack first. And those jacks are delicate. Normally I like to leave them off, because for some reason I just prefer my vehicles not to have a jack, because those are German vehicles, they would never break down, would they? Haha, that one. They would break down more frequently than any other vehicle out there. And as we are about to hit the climax of the song in the background, once again, thank you guys for supporting the channel. And if you like, please subscribe, please leave a like, and let's enjoy Ode to Joy. I always appreciate that part of the song, so I'm a bit sad to basically talk over it. But here's the thing, now that I've assembled the jack, I place the support struts on the vehicle first, just to make sure that they are perfectly aligned with the fender, and then I can just fit the jack in them without much hassle. And it won't just fall over, they will not be misaligned. So this is probably the easiest way to fix them, at least in my opinion. Put the support onto the fender, then fit the jack. And I should have removed the seam lines from these support struts though. I forgot that, and now I have some ugly seam lines on them. But yeah, it is what it is. I can't go back and take them off to scribe off the seam line, so should be careful. I at least removed the seam line from these parts that are the other half of the support that now goes over the jack to close them up. And then I should be adding a wing nut on top, but there's no wing nut provided in this kit, so I sadly cannot do this. Maybe I can use a wing nut from the spare spin though. It would at least add a bit more realism. But then again, those wing nuts are rather small in comparison to the rest of the tank, so would you be able to see them in 35th scale? I am not sure. And I know this time around the video is rather long compared to the others, as this will be a roughly 30-minute video, because I just did a lot of building and I thought, well, since we're building the fenders in all of these little snippets, why not go over? And now that we've tackled this part, we could be moving to the other fender, but like I said earlier, there is this PE part, and like I said earlier, I wanted to fit this to the superstructure to see how this is supposed to work. And here we are going to tackle the little PE part, and luckily this actually attaches to not a PE clamp but a plastic clamp, and I'm really happy about this because I, for the life of it, cannot handle those PE tool clamps. I don't know why, I'm just too clumsy or blind, or my fingers are too sausage-like, so I can't do this. And then I can just glue the plastic part in place, which is a good thing here. Like, take your pair of tweezers, take out the PE part, bend the PE part into shape, first with your fingers, then with tweezers. Take out some super glue, and this is the super glue I'm using. It's a hobby brand super glue. It's better than the cheap stuff I had been using before. We put the part in there with some super glue on both sides, just put a bit of pressure on the PE part so it fits and won't fall out, and then just glue this thing on there. And as you can see, right in the middle of these two PE, whatever this tool is, there's one of these holes that I told you about that the instructions don't tell you to fill. And here you see me jumping forward in the instruction all the way to step 18, where we put everything together. And the fenders actually have this small part that basically connects them to the superstructure. And I'm gluing these parts into place right now, just to see if the fender fits better once I put these into place. And I think I now know, at least have a better understanding of how the fenders are going to be put in place once this is all done. So fingers crossed, I hope I can do this. But right now, as I'm sitting here, I still am not entirely sure if this is going to work, yes or no. You can see now this basically lands in the front and in the back, but we still have this protruding part into the superstructure that still kind of is like swimming and floating on top of it. But yes, we'll see about this once we put the superstructure into place. And we still have this hole, like I said. We need to figure out why there's a hole in the fender. So let's then continue with fender number 2. And you may have seen that I forgot to, or deliberately did not put on one of these stowage boxes onto fender number 1. I want to put those stowage boxes on once everything is aligned with the rest of the vehicle, because if I put them on now and I misalign them, that will probably hinder me from putting the fenders onto the vehicle. So we'll do this right before we finish this. We'll then just go back to the step that we just did and just put those stowage boxes onto the fenders. I don't understand why they would put them on there this early in the build, because you could screw up your model big time. there's a lot of cleanup required with the fenders. And again, I'm trying to make this fit, and again, this thing kind of floats. So it's not a me making a mistake in the build, but just weird engineering, I think. Let's then begin with the tools on this side of the fender. We have an axe and a shovel and the fire extinguisher. While my fiance is throwing over bottles over in the kitchen. Which, by the way, is the reason why I'm doing voiceover. And I know that some of you really don't like voiceover and they'd rather have live commentary while I'm building. The problem is I can't and won't force my fiance to be quiet for an hour or two. That's just not what I want to do. And especially if I go into a time lapse, I can't do like live recordings anyways. So yes, that's the main reason why I'm doing these voiceovers now. And I think they add a lot because I can show you more of me building in a shorter period of time because of the time lapse. And I just think that it's an interesting view to see a kit come together step by step, and I'm not leaving out anything except for things that basically we touched on and are just repetition of one thing. Since this Fender has some other tools, I thought, well, let's show you these tools as well. Especially the fire extinguisher part, because that's going to be featuring PE again. The inertial starter now, the hand crank for that. Again, remove the seam lines. You don't want to have ugly seam lines on your tools. Oh, that sounds so wrong. And again, the instructions are messed up here. It tells you to put it on a certain way, and that will just not fit. So you just have to mirror it and turn it around, and then it will fit perfectly fine. So be careful with the instructions. Dry fit your parts. Don't do it like me. Or as you can see, I'm actually dry fitting it right now. No, I'm not. See? Yeah. Dry fit your parts. Oh look, let's turn it. Oh, now it fits. Yes, there we go. Dry fit them first. Yeah. Messed up instructions again. I don't understand. In my last video, I got a comment in the comment section of a person just asking, Dragon has been around for so long. Why are they not like fixing their instructions? I have no clue. And here you see me using molten sprue. This is an old bottle of Tamiya Extra Thin, and I just put the things that you cut off of pieces, those sprue gates, into the leftover glue, melt it, and then we can use it as a putty. And now I'm going through my spare bins to look for some stowage that I could probably put over these filled holes, because they still will look ugly because there's no anti-slip texture unless I remove it and just reapply it. So maybe we'll just add some stowage there later. There's some resin like bags or something like that, or a tarp or something, or an air recognition flag. If you haven't seen my review of the Gero design air recognition flag, maybe you want to give that a look. It's also very interesting to see what's out there on the market with regards to that. Here we are adding some more of the stretch sprue, because once this starts drying, it kind of shrinks, and then you have to add a bit more. And now we're working on the fire extinguisher. As the music comes to an end, and I did not want to add another piece of music here, because I think the fire extinguisher is actually the last thing we do here with this Fender. Once again, first bend it with your fingers, and if the part is a bit more delicate, just bend it with a pair of tweezers. I don't have a fancy Photo-etch bending tool, so I'm using a pair of tweezers and my fingers. And the fire extinguisher here, you got to be careful. Again, this has a seam line, but if you remove the seam line, you should be careful not to remove the straps that actually hold it in place. And here I'm trying to align this, and then my big head gets in the shot again. As you can see, I've been to the barber shop. My hair is now cut. Again, we're using the small needle here to apply the super glue, but I did not apply enough super glue, so now I had to go back and mess up my part. Yay me. So maybe I should have just dipped the PE part into the super glue. Now I'm holding it down so the super glue can start curing underneath. Now we're adding super glue to the top of the PE part to just put our fire extinguisher in there. And as you can see, I just dipped the fire extinguisher in the super glue, and that just worked out fine. And now we bend the front part of the Photo-etch part to just hold the fire extinguisher in place. And as you can see, I'm trying to hold this down, but the super glue just wouldn't start curing. And I'm holding and holding and holding. No, still not cured. Next time I'm checking, still not cured, so let's add a bit more. Maybe I didn't add enough so that it cannot hold it. Hold it, hold it, hold it. And I think we have finally managed to hold it in place. So at this point, both fenders are done. We will be tackling the superstructure next in our next episode. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you for watching the entire series so far. And if you have any input with regards to what you like to see, if you like the series at all, because the viewer numbers have been going down slightly on these. The first one got a lot and then it's been going down. Just shoot me a message, leave a comment. I really appreciate all of you as we're putting on the mud guard here. And I hope I'll see you guys around in my next video. May the force be with you guys. Bye for now, and if you haven't, please subscribe, leave a like, and I'll see you soon. Bye guys.